It is actually now established that ICT is a way of life. So if it is a way of life, can we try to put it into perspective as a way of life in other sectors, like in this case, in agriculture? I am tempted not to go into the statistics of agriculture in our economies or in the framework of our economies. But it is important to realize that we can mainstream ICT in the way we do business in other sectors. But we can easily also forget that if you are faced with priorities, where do you actually emphasize where do you prioritize your investments? Agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa will remain to be the dominant contributing factor to the growing economies, and that is a fact. And therefore, as much as we invest in the development of ICT, we should not forget that where do we actually mainstream that ICT as much as possible. I'm not saying that other sectors are less important, but I think in agriculture, which is the major contributor of GDP, in fact, is the largest contributor of GDP in Africa, we need to really strengthen that ICT or the aspects of communication that are important. I noted that, for instance, in Kenya, we have agriculture as the leading export. The export in Kenya is agriculture. The leading employer is agriculture. It's like everything revolving around the GDP, around livelihoods, around the mover of development opportunities, the revenue, particularly in the rural area and in the wider economy, is agriculture. And therefore, as much as we use this ICT as a tool, we should use it more, if anything, in agriculture. Next slide. There are many aspects that we could have shared in this presentation. Just a little bit on the background, which I've already preempted. What about the use of agribusiness? Agribusiness is a specialized aspect of agriculture. It is increasingly being recognized as a separate sector. So sometimes people talk of agribusiness as a sector, but we are talking here about what is the agribusiness environment and capacity development, and a whole range of issues, the roles and the expectations, the strategy for agribusiness, value chain, and so forth. Particularly, we'll be focusing on who are the players and who are the movers, and how does this agribusiness drive the economy. Next slide. The background is basically how do we put a framework where we produce and we consume. That is the beginning. We start by producing and we end up by consuming. It's a long chain, a long value chain. And it is the principal source of value addition and the development. It is a catalyst. There are issues of product quality and safety. It is provider or a major provider of services, some of which we'll discuss later. But I will try to emphasize also the aspects of ICT. Next slide. Yeah, the agribusiness as an aspect of wider agriculture is diversified. It is interdependent. It is dynamic and also very complex. It is basically from farm to the table. And there are so many issues of development, strategic management, which also brings into focus ICT, marketing. How do we link production to marketing or consumption? How do we operate in a competitively and globalized environment, how do we address issues of hunger, nutrition, poverty, and technological advancement like ICT we are talking about. Next slide. The business environment and capacity building challenges are enormous, if you like. They are changing business environment, complex issues, globalization or liberalization of development, trade, response to changes at different levels, policy, infrastructure, markets, and several unique sets of risks and opportunity, uncertainties, climate change, and so forth. Then there are issues of dynamic training and curriculum development in whatever levels of learning. Next slide. Who are the major players in this agribusiness sector? We know there are people who are doing capacity building, the farmers as the primary producers, the government, the private sector. These are, the list is not exhaustive, but these are the major players, and we have defined what their role could be, and try to relate their role in the framework of ICT, which we are discussing as the leading theme in the conference. Next slide. You can, if you like, subdivide this agribusiness value chain into categories like input providers, producer groups, intermediaries, and service providers. And how do we connect these people, these players, using our tool, management tool, ICT. For instance, if you take the input providers, the fertilizer, the seeds, these are critical inputs. And then we now talk of the service providers like insurance, financial, extension, and the like. Next slide. This is just to emphasize that the pillars or the drivers of agribusiness will for sometimes be based on the social capital, the environment, including the environment and the economy. Next slide. There are many issues of strategy for agribusiness, value chain, and entrepreneurship, and this is just but a few of the long list, the business case and the role of Africa Rural Development Center in it. For instance, I take that Africa Rural Development innovation is modeled on ICT empowerment. We see ICT empowerment as a critical ingredient in the management and servicing of agribusiness value chain sector. Therefore, this is an area that we think should be strengthened in terms of investment. Next slide. It is critical that we also bring into focus the knowledge of opportunities. Many of the players that I mentioned, particularly the farmers, they are at the bottom of the pyramid in this agribusiness value chain. But you will find that their knowledge of opportunities for business, for technology, uptake and adaptation is very low. And therefore, where do we invest in that chain in terms of, for instance, ICT, which is the topic of our discussion? At the bottom of the pyramid, therefore, it is very critical that we mainstream the primary producers, which are the majority. In that chain, you will find maybe 80 or 90% of the players are actually at the bottom of the pyramid. And they are the ones who are greatly disadvantaged. Next slide. Okay, issues of creating youth and women entrepreneurship platform is very critical. And this is again where Africa Development Center, together with its critical partners like CTO, the universities, and so many others, international and regional organizations, would want to explore to invest so that this critical segment of the population is actually addressed or is not left behind. So creating a platform, entrepreneurship platform, will be a critical area where we think we can add value to the uptake or utilization of ICT. Next slide. It continues to just detail a little bit the areas where the business range, like in East Africa, the business industry forum will be looking at issues of transportation, access to ports. You know, it's a very long list of business opportunities. Next slide. Then issues of linkage for market production, producing for the market is very, very critical when it comes to ICT. Next slide. We can be talking of agribusiness, but unless we see a situation like this, for instance, what are the farmers' current perspectives and challenges? At a glance, you can look at they are not organized, they lack logistics, market access, and in finance. And that is what we have been discussing since yesterday. How do we connect these people so that they are not disadvantaged, they are not disenfranchised as far as these opportunities for investment are concerned? They are far from markets, they are basically subsistent, they are not mainstream into the economy. Lack of economies of scale is a problem with them. Limited technical and financial, we are talking about ICT. How do we make them ICT compliant? They are indifferent among youth to farming, particularly attitude, availability and quality of government support that they get, reliance on other livelihoods. Then what does the private sector require? The private sector, which is investing in ICT or in agribusiness, will need a stable political environment, tax regime. The issues of taxation that were mentioned regarding ICT, they provide employment, free movement, sound relationships, trade, issues of so many issues that are revolving around economy and ICT. Next slide. The government. The government needs to provide a conducive environment for doing business, provide enabling business. There were issues of taxation, revenue collection procedures. They need to provide support, for instance, infrastructural support, roads, ICT, I don't know. They need to provide inputs, credit, market opportunities, or facilitate the provision or access of those facilities. Policies that will also add value or facilitate this is critical. The government needs to be accessible, predictable, and reliable in terms of its activities. The academic and private sector can also assist in this framework. And this is basically access to extension and market opportunities.
Could I ask that you wrap up with the interest of
I'm
time? Thank you.
just having one slide, probably.
Thank you.
Next slide. Yeah, how can the linkages be improved? And then we are talking here of ICT linkages. Among these particular aspects, research, trade, the private sector, science-based technologies and development. You cannot do all these linkages without the able support of ICT. Next slide. I think we just concluded this presentation by saying that we need to integrate from export all the way to the farm. You cannot emphasize on the export of raw materials or processed materials without talking about the production, which means we have to integrate and link from the production to the end. And if ICT could be critical, is critical definitely, that would be very important. issues of regulation or deregulate. We need to deregulate licensing systems in agribusiness. Cost of production is a matter of policy and taxation, related to policy and taxation. We need also to reduce too much government in agribusiness other than providing the enabling environment. But at the moment, you will find most of our countries in the Great Lakes, this presentation is looking at the Great Lakes, is not looking at the situation in Kenya. You will find that that's a problem. Then we need to identify specific niches that we can critically invest in to provide the end results, the positive results that we are looking for as a mover of development and the wider economy. I think that is the end of the presentation. Maybe the next slide. The next slide just saying that we need, knowing is not enough, as we have known that agriculture is the leading or the major contributor of these economies. But we must apply that knowledge, and we must be willing to invest in other enabling aspects like ICT so that we make this agriculture a reality. Because without agriculture providing us with the finances that we need, we cannot even be able to finance ICT for that matter. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you. I think Professor Nyama has painted a very accurate picture of the overall value chain when it comes to agriculture, and that is the basis for what will come next. I'll ask Kurush to take the floor and give us his presentation on the use of technology for the green revolution. Thank you. I would recommend that we keep our questions for the end for now, and we allow for the material to be presented first. All the content will be on the CTO website from Tuesday next week. Robert, can you confirm that? Thank you. So you have the ability to review the material in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. I think Professor Nyamai has laid a good background on agriculture. We'll do a two-person presentation with Claudius. I'd just like to share our perspectives from AGRA, the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa. This was set up in 2006. Our former chairman of the board was Dr. Kofi Annan, and now we are actually blessed because the chair of the board now is Strive Masiwa, whom most of you know is ICT guru in Africa, so we see big opportunities. AGRA, basically 80% of our work is grant making. Our big supporters are Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, African governments, USAID, Norway. So much of our work is grant making, right from farm organizations, universities, NGOs, governments, international organizations, we support that. Dr. Nyamai has already talked about the situation of agriculture in Africa, and for AGRA, the Green Revolution we are talking about is uniquely the African Green Revolution. We are learning from other continents, but really adapting it to the situation here. And our outcomes is to catalyze at least 15 countries towards attaining and sustaining a Green Revolution. Some of you heard about Malawi. They were even exporting, and 2 years back again they're importing. So one of our goals actually is to maintain that momentum in countries, and then reduce food insecurity by 50% in at least 20 countries, and more importantly, double incomes of 20 million smallholder farmers by 2020. And in all this, we see ICT playing a big role. For those who have known AGRA, ICT was a very small component. Actually, we were just traditional grant makers, just a normal agriculture value chain with very little in terms of ICT. But this meeting, and actually we are looking for partnerships, is coming at an opportune time because we're actually developing our new strategy, 2015-2020, which was approved by the board in April, and now we're developing new business plans where ICT is going to feature big. Before we used to work in programs, there was a seed program, soil health, markets, innovative finance, policy, but now we've changed and we're going to have components. So component one is to catalyze an agricultural transformation in key agricultural zones in the continent, shown in this country. So we are totaling 20 countries, but in that first component, which actually have integrated programs, right from seed to markets, we'll be working in 6 main countries. Ghana, Burkina Faso, Mali, then Ethiopia, Tanzania, Mozambique. But the rest of the components deal with that. Component 3, although all ICT will feature in all this, but right now component 3 is what houses ICT. So we are looking at both development and deployment. Because one of the biggest challenges we have, although as Dr. Nyamai says, 85% of GDPs and all that is accounted for agriculture, but in terms of ICT in agriculture, I think the whole ICT spectrum, only 10% covers agriculture. And even within that 10%, you find like 85% just talks of markets and just prices. The other segments in agriculture are left out. So you can see that big opportunity which is there. So our interventions through our partners is right from inputs all the way to markets. So how does ICT come in? As I said, we are slowly moving into this, and some of our grants, there are few which were ICT on its own. So it's a big grant, then within that we have ICT components. But now we are going to have a specific grants for that, and within AGRA also we have one active fund, Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund. That also has a component of ICT. So I would also encourage you to look at that, because AGRA per se looks at crops, but Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund is all countries in Africa across all sectors. And ICT is one big program within that. But as I said, for AGRA, we support all the value chain. So market information system is big, because this is the starting point, because this has been one of the biggest challenges. Producers growing and then starting to look for markets. Now it's the other way around. Look for markets, then feedback into that. And ICT here plays a very big role. Input supplies, we deal with agro dealers, local companies. Where are they located? Farmers would like to know this. But we also need ICT tools that quickly can tell the agro dealers what is in demand, show farmers where these agro dealers are placed. Advisory and extension services, especially good agronomic practices, and empowering community extension workers. As you know, one of the big challenges we have in extension in Africa is the low ratio of extension to farmer ratio. The best in Ethiopia may be reaching 1 to 500, but many countries you have 1 to maybe 2,000, 2,500 farmers. So many governments now are working through community extension workers, and ICT, especially mobile phones, really plays a big role here. Then financial services, we had this morning the presentation, marketing and post-harvest management, especially farm aggregation platforms, because private sector don't want to do the heavy lifting. You know, they want other players to support them. So they'll ask, how much do your farmers have? You have 20,000 farmers, so we don't want to run around. So digital farm aggregation platforms, but hardly do we have anything on that. Then capacity building farm organization. We also support application development. So together with CTA, we've been having these hackathons where we bring youth who develop these applications, and then of course some startups. So a wide array of tools in ICT, but the best thing I would say is a combination of this. It's not usually just to pick one, but mobile telephony is high on our agenda. Platforms, we have quite a number which have been established. Social media, I'm sure the ones in Kenya, Africa know about Mkulima Young. Interactive radio integrated with SMS is really a big issue, and interactive video, especially what we call the digital green approach, is really having a big effect. This is just an example of M-Farms, and this is one issue that also comes up. You see, this is M-Farms, which we started as a startup to a young man, Kwame Bentili in Ghana, but some of you also know about M-Farms Kenya. There's eSoko Rwanda, eSoko Ghana, but this is just to show you that what we develop with partners really have impact. You see, using M-Farms has reduced transaction costs for buyers and sellers by 66% and all that. So in the end, really, we have evidence that using ICT really cuts down on transaction costs. Now, some issues for consideration as we go forward is, as I said, the current existing ICT are heavily focused on market prices. Little efforts addressing other value chain. Yeah, so there's big demand here. Scalability of ICT solutions. We've done great, but only in small places. Now, scaling it up is a big challenge that we need to look to. Develop sustainable business and investment models. This is a big challenge again. Yes, as we said, we support the startups, but really we have to look at the business model. And farmers can produce this, because this is the challenge that partners have been asking us. Then we tell, look, our partners are working with like 1 million farmers. Of course, when our private sector or telecommunication companies here, 1 million farmers, they jump, because that's a business opportunity. So working with farmers really provides this leveraging. Content management is a big issue, credibility, because sometimes you have enthusiastic geeks, you know, and sometimes they use production from one season, showing maize is 5 tons per hectare, and put that as one of the issues to be, and it becomes so. As we develop this, let's really think about credibility and integrity of the data. Appropriate technology, consumer needs vis-a-vis developers' interest. Always there's that trade-off. Hardware issues, and it's great today, hardware issues coming, because sometimes we fix a lot, we think a lot about software and again forget hardware. But think about those community extension workers. You want them to use smartphones. The battery just lasts 1 hour. He or she has to go back, charge it for all that long. Could we also look at these hardware aspects? And then, of course, we need to look at leaders and champions in ICT for us. At this moment, now I'd like to call upon Claudius, just within 3 minutes, just to show these are some of the champions and leaders that we're talking about in ICT, especially the youth. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kuresh, for that very passionate, I must say, presentation. If I was wrong to thought you had invited this, I think I was and I think we need many more people like you around. So thank you so much for that. Over to you.
Good morning to you all once again. Good morning to you all. Good morning. Claudius Kutna is my name, as I had mentioned, and I'm going to run you through a case study of what we have been able to do, and especially focusing on Rwanda. Now, Agritech, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're doing software solutions, but with value adds. We are not just saying that we are going to develop software, because agriculture plays out very differently. So what we believe in as Agritech is that anyone, be you a farmer or not, with a mobile phone should be able to access these services. And that takes me to the next screen, which will be able to showcase our objectives. What do we want to achieve? Why are we in this? And that is displayed by all the items that we've mentioned in the screen. We need to profile our farmers. We shouldn't just talk about farmers, that you have farmers. Who are these farmers? What are they doing? On what scale are they doing? How can we scale them up, like we've been mentioning here? We've seen challenges being mentioned here about the financial inclusion, linkages to markets and other stakeholders in the value chain. Then we have got knowledge management, capacity building, and all that. We need to have a targeted approach towards this. These are the areas of operation that Agritech is currently present in, though effectively we are present in Kenya, in Rwanda, and the Gambia. That's where we're having projects running. And one thing that is very interesting about us, as we mentioned, what we need is a cell phone. So it's interesting enough that today I'm very certain we have a number of teleco companies here. And we would still be stretching an arm to you to say, could we partner and make things happen? The next screen will be displaying our partners. These are some of the partners across. You can see Tigo, you can see Vodacom, QCell, Safaricom, Airtel. We've done massive partnerships, and that is why we've been able to deliver what we deliver to the farmers or to the people whom we work with. And that's why Agra looked at it as a perfect kind of merging, that we would come together and do something serious on the continent and scale it up as easily as we discuss it here. Next slide, please. I'll skip this because most of us, this is statistics, and I wouldn't want to get into statistics at this moment, given time. This is a case study for Rwanda. As I know probably some people at the back couldn't be able to see, but the project that we've been able to do, because the challenges have been mentioned, statistics, we all know about that. But the project that we have done, we've taken up a project with the Rwandan government, in which, as of today, as I speak to you, we have over 100,000 farmers profiled across the country under four value chains, which is rice, maize, potatoes, and livestock. We are saying an end to the era of we can, we should. We are actually walking the talk as we speak. And the 100,000 farmers, if you come to us today, we will tell you who they are, we will tell you their identity card numbers, their biodata, the land size that they have, what they are doing on that land size, how much is being utilized, how much is pending for utility. So that when we're talking about scaling up, we're not talking scaling up in a boardroom and when we get to the ground it's exhausted. That is the kind of information that we have. And one thing that is amazing is that 3/4 of this number to date have been opened for accounts connected to a microfinance, and the government is now bringing in stakeholders. We're having input players. We're having agrochemicals, agrovets. We're having insurance companies who are now coming in because there is clarity, there is data. It makes sense, it is appealing to them. Right now, via the mobile phone, with the solution that we've developed, and it is a feature phone. That's why I used that on the beginning slide, that a feature phone. Using it, we are able to extend all these services, extension services, and name them all to the farmer. So pretty much that is what we've been able to do with them, and we are going to be doing this in the Gambia, as I mentioned too, and we would be willing to do this because in Kenya we haven't made a lot of strides. I know there will be questions about what have you done in Kenya, but sometimes a prophet is not recognized at home, you know. It's only after you're able to display what you're able to do outside that they come and see that you really weren't just talking. So here we are walking the talk, and it would be interesting to speak to a number of you to see what more we can be able to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claudio. I think we...
Introduction as they got that presentation. I'm James Aucha, CEO of Resources Development Group. It's a group of 4 companies at the moment, but there are 3 others which are actually coming to make 7. Now, back in 2008, while I was teaching at Masinde Muliro University, I came to head an agribusiness program in an organization called ANAFE, African Network for Agriculture, Agroforestry, and Natural Resources Education. And we really made great progress. My main aim was to convert graduates from job seekers into employers. Now, in January this year, we were in Rongo University where Professor Nyamai teaches, and I told these agribusiness students how they really need to come out as employers. And the class rep, while we were seated there with the principal and the prof and others, asked me one question. You are telling us to create employment. How come you employed yourself? Now, that was a hard question, but I am glad that I managed to answer it some few months ago. And I am now, these companies, just for your information, they'd already been established by that 2008. They were there, but working on the sidelines, but now I am fully there as CEO, and I have only a 5-year term. After that, I will retire. After 5 years, I'll retire completely, have another CEO, and I'll retire as the president of the James Aucha Foundation, which shall deal with incubation and learning. Now, to the presentation, there are only 6 slides, because the business now I'm learning, we just go straight to what there is. ICT has been used, and I'm glad for the first 2 presentations, because they've really exposed what has been done, and that makes my work easy. I'll focus mostly on the missing link, and looking at how our closed circuit model is really working, and then perspectives that we could actually engage in beyond this particular place. Move on. Now, there are quite a number of advances, and some of them, most of these have actually been involved in during the leading of the agribusiness program in Africa. And part of, one of the critical things, as we are sitting here, we are talking of innovation to drive business. That is the era that we are in. And knowledge is important in this particular innovation we are talking about. There are those models of business people who had some money that was given to them by parents or some other sources. But right now we are saying, if you have knowledge, and I'm glad agribusiness is taught in our universities, and that is the place that we've really been working with, and I still work with them. You can actually apply innovation using the knowledge you have to build on capital, even when the capital base is actually limited. And that's an opportunity that we really need to tap in Africa. Because as we are seated here, some students are in an agribusiness class being taught or really taking an exam. And the best exam in agribusiness, we want to say that that knowledge can actually translate to improve wallets. I call it wallet science, not really social science that we went through. But how can that work? So we have training in ICT that's a cross-cutting course, and that's a big gain that we can actually count on, and students are more exposed into ICT. Now, we have training aids that have been developed. When we were training, we could do things like grafting, and you have to do it practically. But right now, you can have modules that would actually train you grafting, and that makes training very easy for those people working down there. Just go very quickly. Then we have mobile applications. I'm so happy with what Agra is doing, and these are the things. And I'm very happy because we are not going to reinvent the wheel. We'll actually pick on the applications that are there. MFAM is there, eSoko is there. But I'll tell you about the missing link that is actually there. Then transactions are mostly done by mobile phones, and I'm glad banks are actually accepting statements from mobile phones for the transactions that have actually been made. And then we have ICT applications that are running on very simple phones, as the past speakers just said. Now, what has happened? The link, the missing link now. We have producers. This is one of the people that we're actually working with on a poultry project. And that is a marketing center. We are talking of from production to the market. Now, let me tell you, it is good we have these applications. You can know the price of commodities here and there, but the market, as I've known, is actually very rough. At a case in point, we are offering guaranteed purchase of local indigenous birds at 800 shillings. But we are making something, I'll describe that in the next slide. Chicken, sorry, yeah. Chicken at 800 shillings, and we sell at 1,000. Now you can get information that you can sell this chicken at Wakulima market at 1,000. But let me tell you, even right there, we've sent some people, and they are cartels that are managing what is going on there. And they are very serious cartels. You bring your tomatoes, you bring your potatoes. If you don't cooperate with them, then they are going to frustrate you, and your produce will actually rot. So it is not just enough, but it's very important to know of the prices for the commodities. My mother could want to sell a banana, knows very well in the market nearby, it goes at such and such a price. But there are restrictions that may make her not really take that produce to the market. And if she gets there, she could not sell it at that price, yet that is the price at that particular market. Now, in our closed circuit model, we are using ICT, use that information for the applications. We've subscribed to these applications. We know what price is there, and we even work on negotiating so that we buy that particular commodity, but making sure the producer is cushioned so that we don't exploit the producers. And that is where the link is actually missing, because the producers have been exposed to middlemen who actually exploit them. And that's why they are unable to sustain the production. But if you know very well that our business model rides on this particular producer, because if they give us chicken and we make 200 from that, and still we support them with feed, because we are looking into how shall they work. And we are expanding this. So just quickly before I'm told my time is over, a closed circuit model works like CCTV. So we use that information from the mobile phone applications and scan. We use it as a camera that is hidden, so that we know here is the price for this particular commodity, here is the production. We actually work on the production cost. For the eggs, we are producing now the local indigenous eggs at 7 shillings. But let me tell you, one of the companies we partnered recently, Pwani Feeds, is a very recognized company, which also guarantees a supply of feeds plus buying of the eggs. They shocked me by telling me they'll take a tray at 250. That means they are buying an egg at about 8 shillings. Now, it will be very difficult for a farmer who is struggling, because at 7 shillings you must actually be operating at above 2,000 birds. It is very difficult for someone having 200 to even manage to produce at that 8 shillings, and yet that is the guaranteed price. that these companies offering. And they're doing a good job because at least there is a guarantee. But who shall take them to scale? That's why we're actually coming in. Now, as I've said, the critical intervention that one of the companies called Green Farm International is actually doing is to develop this market and engage the market. Even the hotels, we go like here, you go and say, I want to supply this. And there are so many things that are happening, even with simple things like chicken. And chicken, I think, has a problem. Even in the UK, we had of the chicken gate. I don't know how the chicken is everywhere. But even in hotel, when you come to this particular place, you have to go through the processes. There are payments for some people that you have to really sit with them and have some dinner over the same chicken that you want to supply. Now, all that you don't expect a farmer to actually work, and that's where the intervention comes in. Let's just move. We'll have time for questions. Now, we have these challenges in the model relating to costing. The categories I've actually mentioned. The quality that has to be looked into. That's why we are getting into production of the feed. We have 5 acres in Kitale, and we've actually grown maize. We are starting our feed production, so that we know the quality of the feed we are actually giving to our birds and other animals. Then we have signed these contracts. We have guaranteed pricing for the producers, and that guaranteeing prices we are actually riding on applications that have been developed and information that actually comes. But we make sure we have a margin because of the fluctuations that are there. And the producers actually get paid. And Green Farm, that internet and all that, we are talking of the cost for internet, it is actually factored in the price for the end product that is actually coming. So our offices are connected, and we have incubation programs. Our incubatees are able to get connected to the internet. They have a working desk, and it is paid for from the produce that we have guaranteed farmers, and we support the producers to actually by giving them the inputs. I think that should be, let's move. Yes, so I'll end by saying there's this saying from Malawi that a clever bird builds its nest using other birds' feathers. And I must qualify, these feathers are picked and not plucked. So these guys have developed the applications and all that. Then we just speak and use. But as that bird enjoys the good nest, it will appreciate that these other birds did well to shed feathers. So in ICT, let me tell you, we have people that are shedding feathers. Agra, you're doing a very good job, and we are going to work with you because we cannot match the capital base you are injecting into producing and working on those particular applications. But we are using them for business. Our farm managers who are actually getting their payment through using ICT largely to actually work. And we are not exploiting anybody. The producers are well cushioned. Thank you very much.